and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast, where we wonder, is everybody on a watch list? And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back to another edition of Right Guys podcast. Sorry, I am just real quick. I'm just trying to see if there's even a virtual reality where Joe Biden is winning this election. There is not.
Is there any hope?
So we can confirm that he is not even winning the election in virtual reality.
Well, we never made a wager on whether he would win a virtual contest, which if you look at the virtual contest right now, it's not leaning towards him, but I don't know. Like I know
it's a stupid bit. It's a stupid bit.
I like it. I laugh at it. I'll make jokes about it. I don't care. And it's the start of the week. So
did you see me putting it on in the thumbnail below, or?
Well, I'm sitting there. I'm trying to play things. I'm like, what the hell's on his face? I'm like, what's this joke gonna be?
Oculus Quest.
Welcome back. Tell me the joke before you do it.
I know. I like you to be a little surprised. Welcome back. Another edition of the Right Guys podcast. My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. Lots to get into. The knives and the daggers are coming out. 4 new Democrats, high-ranking Democrats.
Yeah.
Come out and but they're telling Joe Biden, anytime you tell your party's presumptive nominee after the primaries are over, you need to step aside. That sounds like a demand. It's not really a huge, it's not really a recommendation. Jerry Nadler was one of them. Let me see if I can get the names. We had Morelli, Smith, Nadler, and Takano. 4 Democrats, and they're not freshman Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry Nadler's been there a long time. We're old enough to remember him shitting himself on camera.
Yes.
And doing a little penguin walk out of there. Ranking members on, he was ranking member on multiple committees. He was the chairman of multiple committees and subcommittees. He's high ranking. If you lose Jerry Nadler, it's a problem. And there was a press conference. Were you the one who alerted it to me? I think you did. I was getting ready to go and lead with a different story.
Yeah.
And you texted me. What did you say? You said
KJP is just getting hammered, dude. They were throwing not just questions at her. Like, I don't know. I'm sitting there watching Kirby stuff. You know, he's in the background. And then all of a sudden, KJP just walks in out of nowhere, starts taking questions.
Do you know why she came on? Because she wanted to take credit for helping Joe Biden prepare. It was Kirby's press conference. Kirby was running it. And then they asked Kirby, so now my Oculus Quest has gotten my hair all bad. They asked Kirby, how is the president preparing for NATO, the NATO meetings? And she wanted to jump on to say, oh, she's helping too.
Oh.
And that kind of threw her into like a live round shooting range.
What was she thinking? Like, she jumped into the range without turning the light on. If you get in front of reporters, what do?
It's like going down range to change your target. You didn't even bother asking for a ceasefire. You're just dodging bullets.
Wow.
And there was one point where it looked like she was on the verge of tears. And I'll download that right now. It was mainly because the press can taste blood in the water. Like, so the press is obviously, they're made up of liberals. They're made up of Democrats. They know the narrative they're supposed to push. But every now and then there's a story that is just too juicy to ignore.
Yeah.
Too obvious to ignore, and they just run with it. And I watched this press conference after you told me to turn it on. And I can't help but think about all the Donald Trump press conferences. That's what Donald Trump's press secretaries dealt with from day one.
Yeah.
Imagine what the Trump presidency would have been like if the knives weren't out for the first 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Right. They were on day one gunning for his press secretaries. So I can't help but think about that. But they can taste the blood. They're like sharks. They can taste the blood in the water. They can tell that Joe Biden is injured. He's bleeding. And every one of these reporters looks at this and says, oh, wow, I can be like Bob Woodward. I can take down an administration. I can be the question that sinks a presidency. And it's almost too tempting to miss.
Yeah.
Right. It's too tempting to give up on and not at least take the shot. Here's the video of KJP looking like she's about to cry.
I just want to take a step back for a second, because I do take offense to what Ed alluded to. You know, come out here every day, there's a press briefing, and we do our best to give you the information that we have at the time. That's what we do. And we understand that freedom of the press, we respect the freedom of the press. You heard me talk about this last week.
Yeah, it's BS. Yeah. It's all BS. It's all BS. And if you want to know what is it that prompted her to try and give a little kindergarten lecture, a little Joe Biden lecture, here's the fireworks. Here's what Josh called hammering. I call it just pure chaos.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
Not what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a...
Just for context, last time there was a press conference, she said that Joe Biden did not receive any medical attention after the debate, and that has been proven to be a lie.
Yeah.
Joe Biden did get a doctor checkup. His debate performance was so bad, so atrocious, that he got medical care. Let that sink in for a second. Joe Biden saw a doctor after the debate. That's how bad it was.
Right, because they're probably afraid of a stroke.
Yeah.
Because he's probably juiced. I mean, you know all of the side effects that happen when you start taking the juice that they give you, right?
Yeah.
And they were probably worried something did happen, because there was times he had complete freezes during that debate.
Jon Stewart has a really funny line. Joe Biden had resting 25th Amendment face.
It's true. And when the president's that bad, the press has to do their diligence, right? The press has to ask those questions. And it's like they're a pillar of our society for a reason, because they're supposed to hold administrations and government feet to their fire, right? And they haven't done it with the Democrats for a long time.
Yeah.
And KJP's finally being held over that fire, and she can barely handle it. I mean, who was the really good press secretary for Trump when she was there? And she got McEnany, was it McEnany, who was hammered from day one and just had her book and fired back at him? KJP just can't handle this kind of stuff. I mean, there's only so many times you can spin something before you get so dizzy you fall over.
And here's the New York Times. Parkinson's expert visited the White House 8 times in 8 months.
They're neurologists, aren't they? As I understand,
it's the same neurologist. It's Joe Biden's neurologist, but he happens to be an expert in Parkinson's disease. And he is the neurological consult for the White House medical team. She just said Joe Biden has seen him 3 times in 3 years. New York Times reporting he went to the White House, checked into the residency, but checked in 8 times in 8 months. That's not a yearly physical. That's he's prescribed something, and he'll lose his license if he doesn't go and see how the medication is doing, if it needs to be tweaked. That he won't write new prescriptions unless he at least sits down with them.
Yeah, and he may also be doing some measuring, right? There might be a precipitous drop off in the last 8 months, right? And they're monitoring that, because that's what they do. I've had family members with, some of those disease states, and they have to monitor, right? They have to watch. They have to prescribe the right kinds of drugs, the medications, and maybe was she talking about there's a different neurologist that sees them every year?
Nope, it's the same one.
Okay,
the same one.
So
but
how can she get away with it then?
I don't know. I don't know how she thinks she can get away with it. I think, is this the right one? Which the right one? Yeah, this is the right one. I don't know how she thinks she's going to get away with it. She thinks that she can do the same old BS and that they'll carry water for her. And as we'll see, I'll put it back on. The media is not going to let her out of this one.
He has had to see a neurologist. So That is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're
Dr.
asking
Kevin
me.
Kennard, come to the White House
But I just,
specifically
I
about the
also said to you,
president's condition.
Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names.
You cannot
We
share
have to.
names
We have
of
to.
others he would have met with.
We
but
cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect.
And they're calling her out. Like, what are you talking about? He's signed into the visitor's log.
Right.
And we know what his name is. His name is Dr. Kevin Kennard. Right here. New York Times got the name, not from like
Walter
surreptitious like spying. He signed in. You have to sign in. Anyone who signs into the White House is fair game. There's no secrets. There's no anonymity when you're the president's neurologist. Remember when Donald Trump had COVID and all the doctors were pressured to come out and give a press conference? There's no anonymity. There's none.
There's no HIPAA violation. You don't know what's wrong with them. We're just asking, has the doctor been there? And then you can kind of start doing the math from there. What kind of doctor is he? What do they cover? Was he being seen for this?
8 times in 8 months, according to official visitor logs. And remember, the White House is not keeping visitor logs at Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. And they're also, like, none of his Delaware homes, they're not keeping a visitor's log. So once he goes, and his plan is to go on Friday to Delaware, to Rehoboth Beach, they will not keep a log. So anyone can come into that house and the media doesn't know. Right? If Donald Trump tried that, if Donald Trump refused to report who was coming into Mar-a-Lago to meet with the president, the media would have been outraged.
Right. Russian collusion or something like that, right? He's a spy. Yeah. But he's also been Biden's been the most vacationing president in presidential history. I think he spent more time away from the White House than any of them. So why is he away from the White House? Is it because he's been getting special doctor's visits?
He's not doing the job. He's also not doing the job. You don't have to show up. Like, you know how he likes to say, oh yeah, I taught a class. He wasn't. He got an honorary professorship. He didn't teach a single class, right? But he says, oh, I taught classes. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like having an honorary doctorate and being like, oh, I'm a doctor now, right? Like, no, you're not. That's just what they give to anyone who gives a commencement speech. Yeah, let's watch the end of KJP's meltdown.
The flounder,
I understand that. I hear you.
Right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them. We have to keep their privacy.
It is public information.
I hear you. Guys, hold on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What do you missed about? What do you missed about?
Everything he just asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, you didn't have to come back and clean up.
I never answered the question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered. And I said, no, he did not have a medical exam. And I still stand by that. Matter of fact, the president still stands by that. He had a verbal check-in. That is something that the president.
Oh, it's not a medical exam. It was a verbal check-in with a doctor.
What does that mean? Because when she said that, I'm like, that means nothing. What's a verbal check-in with the doctor? Is that like telehealth?
Doctor doesn't touch you. I mean, is that it? If there's no tactile bit to it?
Yeah, I don't know. So, but his normal doctor would be there as well. I mean, they're always a doctor next to him 24/7.
Yeah.
So, did they had no conversation about the president's health?
She lied. She's trying to cover it up. This is like Bill Clinton. It depends on what your definition of is. No, that wasn't a medical exam. That was just a verbal consultation. That's like what she's saying here. They are trying to mince the words, do the linguistic backflips to get out of the fact that she lied. And here they're catching her lie again. Oh yeah, he saw him 3 times over 3 years for check-in. Like, oh well, the White House visitor log has him checking in every month for 8 months.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just accidentally calling you.
That's what that
was. And she's like, "Oh, well, I can't talk about that. That's private." No, and they rightfully are saying, "No, it's not. It's public information. This guy signed in.
Yeah.
He's not only have you already publicly announced that he's the neurologist, everyone knows the name because he signed in.
As a couple times a week. A couple times a week.
Now in regards to Dr. Kevin Kennard.
And I am telling you right now that I am not sharing confirming names from here. It is a security reason. I am not going to do that, Ed. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me. I'm not going to confirm a name. It doesn't matter if it's even in the log. I am not going to do that from here. That is not something I am going to do. What I can share with you is that the president has seen a neurologist for his physical 3 times. 3 times. And it is in the reporting that we share a comprehensive reporting. Matter of fact, it's more than what the last guy shared, and it is in line with what George W. Bush.
No, Donald Trump had a cognitive exam. A couple times when he started slurring words, the media said, 25th Amendment now. He needs a cognitive exam. He took it and he passed it. And it's kind of silly that Donald Trump always likes to come out and say, I aced it. I aced that. It is a very easy exam, right? It's like, here's an empty clock face. Make the hand say 3 o'clock. And if you do that, you're sane. Like, so it's kind of funny when Trump's like, I aced that.
Right.
Best test ever. They said
Beautiful
it. Said they've never seen someone take the test like that.
Right.
Yeah. It's a little funny, but when you also realize that, like, Joe Biden is actively refusing to take the test. Actively, not just like ignoring it. They're saying, will you take it? And he's saying, I'm tested every day. I don't need to take that. No, very clearly, you do need to take it. Very clearly.
You just don't get regular visits from a neurologist without there being an issue, right? Because seeing a doctor is expensive, right? That's a lot of time the doctor spends with other patients. But if you're getting visits that often, there has to be there's smoke there. So what's the fire? And here they are, finally caught in the lie that a neurologist has been visiting the president of the United States, and they still want to lie about it because they know the whole thing starts falling apart. I mean, when was he at a point where they know he could no longer actually functionally run the office? Is that when Hunter Biden starts showing up? And is Hunter Biden helping run the United States in his father's stead? Right? These are all questions I want answered because I didn't elect that dude.
And just so we're clear, Walter Reed Medical Center is where this guy works. This guy the neurologist doesn't work in the White House. He works in Walter Reed, which isn't even in DC. It's in Maryland. So when you look at this, worst case scenario at rush hour, it'll take you over an hour. This guy wasn't driving once a month to the White House, an hour there, an hour back. It's longer than that because you have to go through secure areas. You got to go through security. That guy isn't spending half of his day once a month for 8 months for nothing, right? For nothing. And there's a reason that when the president has these types of medical exams, he tends to go to Walter Reed because it's just too much of a hassle to bring all of the doctors, all of the nurses, all of the testing equipment to the White House. He goes there, right? Gets it all done at once.
Yeah.
But an hour and 10 minutes if it happened at 5 p.m.
These are secret meetings, right? And this is the hospital that's dealt with the president before. Yeah. Walter Reed is known for being an incredible hospital. I'm trying to find anything that talks about their work in
he's an expert in Parkinson's.
Yeah,
this guy, he's like a world-renowned expert in Parkinson's.
I mean, obviously they were bringing in the best doctor in the world for that to check on Joe Biden.
I had a concussion when I was in high school playing football. I didn't see the world-renowned leader in Parkinson's, right? There are lots of neurologists who aren't the world-renowned leaders in Parkinson's.
Yeah.
It's the truth, right? And realize this is a military hospital. So I would venture to say this guy probably isn't even the best neurologist, considering that they're dealing with traumatic brain injuries from combat veterans, right? PTSD. I would venture to say there are probably other neurologists who are more skilled at the stuff that Walter Reed really needs to focus on. Because the number one need of wounded soldiers is not Parkinson's, right? When it comes to neurology. It just isn't. So it's a very specific role he's playing. He's not there. He's not the PTSD expert.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the traumatic brain injury, brain swelling expert. He is the Parkinson's expert, going to the White House 8 times. And you know what the new line from the White House is?
What?
They're saying that the White House just conveniently at the same time happened to launch a major Parkinson's research policy like proposal.
Uh-huh.
And so they're saying that this guy drove into the city once a month for 8 months straight because he was consulting on White House Parkinson's funding policies.
We know it's total bullshit.
We know it's a lie. We know it's a lie.
Every 30 days, I mean, the regimentation on that's crazy. It's like he's constantly checking in every 30 days. Because what happens if he really does to get to the point where he's nothing but just a mumbling, drooling guy at this point, right? Is he close to being there? I mean, is that where he's at now? And what we saw during the debate was as best as they can get.
Yes,
right.
That was as good as Joe Biden can do a debate.
Yeah, and that's it. There's nothing left there. So why hold on to all that power, Max? Are you the group behind Joe Biden that's trying to hold on to power? Or are you the group out there is trying to take the power, right? Now you've got this crazy head-to-head fight in the White House. Who's in control of the United States? Who's going to be the next president, quote unquote, or at least the person who runs for the Dems as president? There's names popping up, but I mean, it's an interesting time.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And there was Joe Biden called into Morning Joe this morning, and he had an interview. I didn't pull any of the clips for it because it's just classic propaganda, but you can actually hear the sheets of paper rustling on Joe Biden's end as he's reading the answers, right? You can actually hear it. And at one point he says, yes, he's reading a list. So the reason he called in, he didn't video conference call in or go in person, was because he was reading off of pieces of paper what he was supposed to say. And he still muffed it up. He still couldn't do it right. And at one point they asked him, have you been tested for pre-Parkinson's? Mm-hmm. And his answer was, I was tested for COVID, which is not an answer.
No. It's the wrong answer.
Have you been tested for neurological decline pre-Parkinson's? He says, I tested negative for COVID. That is not what they asked you.
And people, I mean, it's Morning Joe. I mean, they were cool with the answer. Was there any pushback on that?
No,
one?
They are not. They're not going to push back. And this comes. Remember, this comes after Joe Biden had that other phone radio interview with an all-black radio station in Philadelphia, where Joe Biden infamously declared that he is a black woman. You didn't hear that one?
Is this like when he's a professor, or when he was in like World War II now? Or the sad part is that Joe Biden cannot separate reality versus fantasy. And in fact, somebody just has to introduce something to him, and somehow he fills in the gaps with stuff that's not true. And is that happening when he calls Putin? Is that happening when he calls other leaders?
Yeah. At some point, he has to talk off the cuff. At some point, he can't just read the thoughts other people give to him. Did you hear this clip of him declaring that he is proud to be the first black woman? Here we go. Here it is.
I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president.
I'm proud to be the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president.
Wow, this poor guy. Like, this is, I want to laugh, but now I'm just kind of scared. Like, I'm really worried that we're in trouble.
You should be worried. Now, the Democrats and their allies in the media pointed to this interview as proof that Joe Biden has it all together, and there's no reason to worry about the debate. No reason to worry. Even though he, in this call, declared that he was proud to be the first black woman to serve with a black president.
Yeah. Wow.
But then more information dropped, because it turns out all of the questions that he was asked were fed to the reporter from the White House.
All right. Yeah. Now, yeah. And then that reporter has subsequently been fired for that.
Well, they have mutually parted ways.
Wow.
But that is, we're going to fire you because instead of asking questions and maintaining journalistic integrity, you served as a mouthpiece for the administration. So even this all black radio station couldn't handle what, if we're being completely honest, is very common in the Biden White House. When they do interviews, they don't just let any question get asked. They are pre-vetting the questions. We've seen him with the little note cards when he goes for what few press conferences he has. The note cards where he knows the question, he knows who to call on and what their question is going to be. They've been scripting everything. Yeah. So she was fired. Joe Biden just lost this woman a job. Joe Biden just lost one black job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, one's too many. Shouldn't that be enough? That's and there were rumors that at some of the other stations they were getting the exact same questions. Yes. I mean, how long do they think they could go around planting questions before anybody would notice? And man, you want to talk about people that are acting like fascists. Imagine walking in saying, here's the pre-scripted questions that you can ask the president and nothing else. Man, if that's not the definition of fascism, I don't know what it is.
But before that came out, they're saying, look, Joe Biden can answer questions. You can give him a question, he can answer it. Turns out it was completely scripted. He knew what they were going to ask. He knew how to answer it, and he still couldn't stop himself from saying, I'm proud to be a black woman. He still couldn't help himself.
This is rough to watch. I mean,
that's like knowing the answers to the test and still failing anyway.
Yeah. I mean, only I could pull that off for some dumb kid in third grade, right? I mean, that's the intelligence level that he's reverted back to. I would be shocked if he could do basic arithmetic right now. I would be shocked. Well, I want to see hand drawings. I mean, it's the first thing they have people do is math, and they start drawing pictures, right?
And that's part of the cognitive assessment. Draw this, draw that. Very simple things. If your hand's too shaky, which, by the way, we did see video from this weekend of Joe Biden's hand shaking while he's doing a question and answer. Other thing is, where's the press conference? Where's his press conferences? Because you see what the media is doing to these guys, John Kirby and KJP. What do you think the media is going to do to Joe Biden when he finally is forced to answer questions? And we got a little bit of news from that from Kirby today. And it's funny. They seem to have a lot of contempt for Joe Biden because just as his wife refers to him as a child, treats him like a child, the White House press corps is also treating him as a child, saying that he's preparing for a, quote, big boy press conference, end quote.
After that, the president will hold a press conference. I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it.
To show the unprecedented strength of our own.
A big boy press conference. Let's do it again. This is not something I'm saying. This is what his own press secretaries are saying, conferring, joking with each other that they're preparing Joe Biden for a big boy.
After that, the president will hold a press conference. I guess a big boy press conference.
Yes.
Get him out now. If he wants to run in 2024 election, fine. Get him out now. He can get out of the presidency and run again if he really wants to. Like, I'm torn. This guy, if you're saying we're prepping him for a big boy press conference, he's toast. He's toast. If you're using that language, even behind closed doors with each other, he's toast. But I also know that Donald Trump's going to beat the snot out of him in November. So I don't want him to leave. But I also recognize that this man, this coming week, he's going to be speaking to NATO allies.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, he had a big boy press conference, Josh. Big boy.
Look at the smirk on Kirby's face. It's like they know this thing is just going down. And it's kind of a joke to him, I'm guessing, at this point. And the fact that they got this far with it, I mean, the joke's on us, right? There's no precedence for anything like this I've ever even heard of in American history. Another Joe Biden first, right? We started this show in the middle of the Biden presidency, and all we've ever done is shows saying this is a new first.
Yeah.
This is a new first. Here's another new first for the history books.
I remember on our old show, Conservative Daily Podcast, which we're going to talk about a little later. I remember covering the campaign trail, and we all knew he was obviously suffering from decline, old age, whatever you want to call it. And there was a clip that we played, and it still sits with me. During the Democrat primary season, right before the New Hampshire primary, which is the first in the nation, it is not like Super Tuesday that has a dozen contests. It is a standalone. Joe Biden, out campaigning, thought he was in Vermont. He actually referred to the area he was as being in Vermont. And it's one thing if you're in Super Tuesday, right? And you get like you're campaigning in North Carolina and South Carolina, you get them mixed up. It's fine. But for the first in the nation primary of New Hampshire, that's New Hampshire. That's like being in Iowa and thinking you're actually in Illinois. Well, no, you wouldn't be in Illinois because it's not the Illinois primary, the Illinois caucus. It's the Iowa. It's very obviously the Iowa caucus. And when I saw that, I said, "Oh no, he's toast. He's toast." And that was over 4 years ago, 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Well, there was 6 years of the press hiding Joe Biden's debilities. You had 6 whole years of the media in lockstep with the White House on these lies. Are you shocked now that they're still trying to promote the lie? Are you shocked now that they're going to fight until the very, 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 very bitter end with everybody trying to kick him out the door behind it?
It almost feels like they thought this was a right-wing conspiracy theory. But we know that they've been doing this. Here's from the New York Times. This is from an opinion editorial. The New York Times chief White House correspondent Peter Baker told me he has started using translation headsets on overseas trips, even when he is 20 feet away from the president, because they offer a magnified volume when Biden starts to mumble. Imagine being an English-speaking journalist and having to wear the foreign translator headsets because you can't understand what your own president is saying in English. It's insane.
He's too far gone, Max. It's like, so what's the timeline now? Is he out today? Is he out next week? Is he out? Does he stay in? I mean, the party has to know that he's dragging everybody down.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's too many down the line ballot races out there, and the effort to separate themselves from the president's huge right now. But it shouldn't be the case. They should be riding his coattails right now.
This morning, Joe Biden sent a letter to all the Democrats on Capitol Hill saying that he is not dropping out, and it's time for everyone to rally together behind him as the candidate. Now, ask yourself, having seen Joe Biden talk and attempt to think, do you think that Joe Biden wrote this 2-page single-space letter? Does anyone think Joe Biden wrote this?
Not at all. And even if it was his speech writer, my challenge to Joe Biden would be, can you read this to the audience, please?
Yes.
The whole thing.
Even just tell us, what's it about?
Yeah.
What does it say in it?
Mm-hmm.
Give us the Cliff Notes.
And we know he can. And they know this is total smoke, right?
Yeah.
So I see a rift in the party starting to really start to form here. And go ahead.
It's going to be the frontline Democrats who cave first. The fact that Jerry Nadler is caving tells you a lot. Jerry Nadler is in a safe seat. He's not going anywhere. He's entrenched. He's good. Lots of other Democrats are running in pro-Trump areas, right? That like Trump, but in the midterm didn't have a red wave because those are Trump voters, not Republican voters, or they had bad nominees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are called frontline Democrats. Those are going to be the ones who bail first. Those are going to be the ones who don't want Joe Biden in their district, who frankly would probably rather Donald Trump stand side by side with them on stage.
Yeah. I mean,
than be at a Joe Biden rally.
Could you imagine that? I mean, how much?
They'll never do it, but they would rather. They would rather, for sure.
I mean, it would be fun to see that. but everybody in Nevada is scared, right?
Yeah.
Democrats in Wisconsin are scared. Michigan, they're scared. Pennsylvania, they're scared. Few races in Ohio.
Yeah.
And these are all the big states.
Don't underestimate the no tax on tips. Yeah. I've been out to eat a few times and I've asked the waitresses, like, hey, have you heard about this? So, yeah, people are writing that on their checks all the time. What's this all about? And so, yeah, Donald Trump promises that if he gets reelected, he's going to change the policy so that the IRS doesn't automatically tax your tips.
Change those lives.
Change people's lives completely, change people's fortunes.
Yeah.
Now, it'll probably lead to a little bit of tax fraud, underreported tips, right? But the idea, yeah, but like if you tip them in cash, they can underreport it. If you tip on a credit card, it's hard to hide that, right?
Right.
But if you changed it so that it had to still be reported by the person and not be reported as a wage, it could change people's lives. Right. So that is going to do wonders. And I remember we covered it on the show, the union rep for the, what was it? The restaurant union or whatever in Las Vegas with we don't believe him. He's a felon. Well, no, people are going to vote with their pocketbooks and their wallets, not with he's a felon, which by the way, Democrats are supposed to be the ones who love helping felons out.
Yeah. Remember when Carville famously said it's the economy, stupid?
Yeah.
I mean, here we are up against probably one of the worst economies we've seen since the 70s. We're probably up against some real energy problems as times go forward. What makes you think people won't reevaluate their whole lives when they hit the ballot box this year? Because when I go and buy bacon, it's like $5 a pound now.
Yeah,
and I try to shop at Walmart and Costco and Sam's to save $1, but even the bulk stuff, is up a couple bucks, right?
It's almost worth it. It's almost worth it just to buy pork belly and just make it yourself.
Yeah,
at that point,
absolutely, because that would be the idea. And families feel the pinch. When families feel the pinch, moms change the way they think. Dad that changes the way they think. And maybe they're starting to realize that this whole open borders, terrible economy, go after people politically environment is something that they don't want anymore. And something has it actually been brought by Joe Biden or the person who was behind Joe Biden? Because that's the biggest thing I'm having to worry about. It's like, who's actually running things?
Yeah.
Because he's just too dumb. I mean, there's nothing there.
It's not him. It's not him.
So who is it? Is it Hunter? Is it Obama? Yeah. Is it Jill?
You see that press conference of Hunter sitting in the audience, staring at him? He looked like a theater mom staring at her daughter during her big solo. Don't mess up. Don't mess up. We worked so hard for this. Don't mess up. You said a word a second ago, pinch. And this is the closest to a segue I can get. Whoopi Goldberg today said that she doesn't care if Joe Biden shits himself because even she sometimes has poopy days.
I'm just going to add my 2 cents because I wasn't here on the day that y'all talked about it. I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go. Now, he had a bad night the first time that he went out and debated with Kamala Harris. And everybody wanted him to quit then and say, you can't talk to women like this, or you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. He came back, said, you know what, I got it, and gave 4 years. So, yeah, I have poopy days all the time. I step in so much poo you can't even imagine.
I don't care if he shits himself. I got poopy days too.
Why can't does he have to put a sentence together?
This is the defense.
Right?
This is the defense. This is their defense. And the Democrat, you ever see Harry Sisson, I think his name is? He's a little shit on Twitter. Democrat, paid for by the DNC through his management company to spew Democrat talking points. him and others have started saying, like, where's Donald Trump? Donald Trump hasn't been seen publicly in 10 days. And one of the White House communication workers said that that's the most underreported story of the week, that Donald Trump is hiding. No, Donald Trump is sitting back eating popcorn, watching Whoopi Goldberg go out on national television and say you should vote for Joe Biden because even she has poopy days sometimes. Donald Trump shouldn't say a word. He should just sit back and let this thing implode, right? Let it implode.
Someone said that Donald Trump was hiding and he was playing golf 9 days in a row.
Hanging
like
out.
you said, he doesn't have to do anything else.
He is going up in the polls without saying a word.
All he has to do is sit there and watch. Why would he go out and say anything? Right? Plus, he can actually go out there and play a round of golf every day for 9 days. Joe Biden can't even get off the driving cart.
No, it hits it backwards. We showed that.
So just insane. I have poopy days too. Oh my gosh. I step and shoot all the time.
I have poopy days.
That's just the dumbest thing.
We all shit ourselves sometimes.
I can't believe Whoopi has turned into such a leftist.
Look how angry she looks. Look how angry she looks. So Donald Trump isn't really saying much. He had a pretty funny, long-winded Truth Social post for 4th of July. He is also just reposting things that Biden's posting. Like here, he reposted this. Biden wishing the Islamic world happy Islamic New Year. Donald Trump reposted that without comment. When your enemy is making a mistake, don't interfere. Don't stop them. If Joe Biden thinks that the American people want him on the 7th of July to do this, let him do it. See what happens. We woke up on 4th of July and the president's Twitter account still had the Pride Month banner up. They had to be publicly shamed into putting Independence Day banner up.
That's stupid. That pisses me off.
Some poor intern had to come into work on 4th of July and change the banner.
Man, there's no intern. They're not going to trust an intern to the socials. That's a highly paid person sitting there making sure that the Communist Manifesto goes out, right? I mean, that's done on purpose. And they're hoping to get away with it, but you can't be the president of the United States and not like the United States unless you're Joe Biden.
Unless you're Joe Biden.
Pull it off.
So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. The left has been trying to go after Trump with this Project 2025 thing, which is not the Donald Trump platform. Project 2025 is Heritage Foundation, a bunch of other conservative think tanks coming up for, like, if you had your way and you could do it, what would you do? Some of the things really good, common sense. Other things, we should probably talk about it before we put pen to paper, such as getting rid of no-fault divorce. Maybe we should talk about that before you just put that pen to paper and make people think that Donald Trump supports that. Adjusting veterans compensation so veterans get less compensation for medical things. Maybe we should talk about that before you put pen to paper. Yeah. It's not Donald Trump's platform. Donald Trump's platform is his own, and the RNC platform will be voted on at the convention, ratified. That is the platform. Anything else is not his platform. It's just a wish list of some other people.
Right.
So we'll see. That's going to come at the RNC, the Republican National Convention. But we got some news, and I broke this to you. Someone broke it to me today.
We're going to the RNC? We've been invited?
We're not. We're not. Oh. But our old boss, Joe Altman, is apparently not allowed to go to the Republican National Convention. He has been blacklisted, according to some people, because he is on an FBI watch list and Secret Service watch list. Let's roll the tape.
Stand angry. Joe Altman.
I don't really watch the show that much, but I do tune in every now and then for like the first couple minutes because that's when things start to get honest and off the cuff.
Yeah.
So this is their intro. Also, I'm sure this is going to go really smoothly. I'm sure they're not going to have any technical difficulties. I'm sure that since we've left, they've figured out how to turn audio on.
Welcome back. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There's no volume, guys. No volume. No volume.
Yeah, we've got you both. I've got you both.
Oh,
this goes on for like a couple minutes. Let me see if I can find it. It's a sucky feeling. There's no volume, but it always seemed to be on Joe's end that Joe couldn't hear everyone.
I don't
hear you. We can
anything else. I can't hear David Dunn. I'd appreciate it. I'm going to start by talking about something that frankly is, I just found out last night. So David, you can hear me. I cannot hear you, but I would like to get there. Hopefully they'll get that fixed here in a second. So I was banned by the RNC. I was banned from going to the RNC event. Now, I did receive press credentials. All of that was done. And the state GOP for Colorado got a phone call. I think that was from a Justin Everett. Now, Justin Everett is not a person that I'm particularly fond of. He's the one that ran the Trump campaign in Colorado and then moved and ran for office, I think. But represents, I believe, if I had to guess, I'd say the establishment. But I'll reserve based on the fact that he hasn't responded to me at all. But the comment was made is that I was banned because I was red flagged by the FBI and the Secret Service. So I picked up the phone and I called people. And if you're red flagged in multiple ways. You're not just red flagged for the RNC event. You're red flagged in a lot of other instances. And so I picked up the phone and started making phone calls. Turns out I was never banned by the FBI. I was never banned by the Secret Service. I was banned by this appropriations committee or appointment committee at the RNC.
Whew.
It's a lot to unpack there.
A lot to unpack there. I will say, and this is going to come out funny. This is so on brand for Joe.
Yeah.
Can we just like,
yeah,
this is so on brand. Like no one is ever going to say that Joe goes off brand. This is on brand.
No. And when he makes the statement, you're like, I believe this one.
Yeah, that sounds like it's plausible.
It sounds something like he would kick his office door open and be like, who the hell banned me here?
Yeah. And listen, there's a lot of things that he's said over the years that have been blown out of proportion and haven't been completely accurate. There's also a lot of things he said over the years that even at the time, my face had horror on it. Like, why would you say that? No, we're not doing that. No, we don't condone that. It's not hard to get on these lists. And first of all, if you call the FBI and say, hey, am I on a watch list? FBI is not going to tell you the truth.
No.
The answer will always be no. If they think they need to surveil you, they're not going to admit that they are doing it. Wow. Right?
No.
So no matter what you do, you call them and ask them that, the answer is going to be no. Right?
Yeah.
Unless you're on like a no-fly list where it could actually impact you.
Sure.
Right? And then there's ways to like apply and try and challenge it, get off it. Very hard to do. If you say stuff that gets the FBI and the Secret Service to say, maybe this guy shouldn't be around elected officials, you have no right to challenge that. That's a security thing.
Yeah.
And if you ask them, is that true? They're going to say, no, it just must be something else. And they're going to hang up and they're going to add it to your file.
Yeah. Here's my take a little on this. I totally agree with what you're saying. Like the FBI will never tell you on your watch list. You'll never know if you're on one or not, yada, yada, yada. But somebody at the RNC looked at the guest list, right? And decided that they didn't want him there for one reason or another. And they're citing this FBI thing and Secret Service. I don't think he's crazy enough to threaten the president. But
no, not our president.
I don't think he would.
Not Trump.
Not Trump.
Yeah.
No comment on the other one. If like he's to do it to Biden, I don't know what he'd do. But somebody looked at that list and was like, "This is a no."
Yeah, it's going to be a no for us.
It's going to be a no, and it takes a lot to get to that point. Doesn't it?
I also think I can agree with what he's saying that it cannot be an FBI thing. Maybe it's just like a warning, right? Like, hey, be on the lookout for this guy. And maybe, like you said, the coordinating committee or whatever at the RNC just said, nope, we're not even going to risk the fallout, the potentiality of it. Nope, just not doing it. Right. And it's not the FBI that told them to do that. It's just them to say, nope, too controversial, not going to do it. No, it's crazy. I used to always sign up for like CPAC. No problem. Come on in. Usually though, when you say like you don't know that it's happening, most people know. If you've ever been contacted by Secret Service for comments you've made online, which I've never have, but if you've ever been contacted, that doesn't go away.
No.
Like all of these Democrats in the last couple of weeks after the Supreme Court decisions saying, oh, Biden, you should now assassinate Trump. Secret Service working overtime, knocking on those doors.
Yeah.
Right. And that's going to stick with them for a long time. They don't have to be charged with anything. They don't have to be indicted. They don't even have to receive a formal investigation notice.
Yeah.
Just having that door knock from Secret Service is going to close doors for people.
Yeah.
It just is. It just does.
It puts the wrong kind of eyes on you.
And if you ever, like, they will never get into the State of the Union. They'll never get in.
No, ever.
They'll just say, no, sorry, someone knocked on your door. We don't trust you.
It's a small crowd and there's a big list and it's easy to start knocking people off of it. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, nobody wants it in there. There's certainly a lot of effort being made separating him from the RNC. And that's my take.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And listen, I don't know if that's entirely fair. I think there are probably some people there who would love to have him there.
Maybe.
But I also could understand that probably me too. Some people probably wouldn't want me there, and that's fine, right? Unless you're a big news outlet, you have to know that they're going to be very picky on who they let in. They're not going to let the Young Turks in, right? The Young Turks aren't going to get in this time. No, maybe they will. I think you're going to have. I think Steve Bannon even might have a hard time after he gets out of prison.
Yeah,
right. Some of these events that say no, he's just got out of prison. We're not letting him in. Some of it's legitimate, some of it's not. Can't speak to this. I will say this is incredibly on brand.
Man, I never want to be on a list. I never want to be on a list, but we're all on lists. I mean, everybody's. All we had to do was go work for the Conservative Daily for a while, and you're probably going to be on the list. You know,
I actually think for Joe, it might be better for this to happen than to get in. I think he could go and do like a guerrilla kind of campaign, set up shop across the street, rent bar space or something, do a podcast outside the RNC. And kind of hop up the victimhood, like, oh, yeah, they won't let us in. Yeah, the establishment. I think you can swing this. I think you can turn this into a positive.
Well, they owe you consultation money now because you just laid out the plan. I'm sure thinking about that stuff.
I'm sure Apollo is on it. I'm sure Apollo is already on it.
It just
we'll see.
He looked angry. You know,
yeah. And listen, if I was planning a big trip to the RNC and I'd already gotten a tentative yes, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed too. I'd be pissed. I'd be angry, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I just never thought about going myself. I mean, I'd rather go to a SHOT Show than an RNC. But you know,
I've gone to a SHOT Show. I've gone with Joe to a SHOT Show. It's a lot of fun. But also, we have to understand that the RNC isn't for us; it's for delegates.
Yeah,
right. There are so many delegates there, and staff, and real journalists who are having real networks with real audiences. It's not a dig. It's just saying that however big Conservative Daily is, it's not bigger than Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. They have much, much, much bigger audiences. So it's really not a place for everyone and anyone to get in there. They usually are very, very selective. That combined with stuff he said in the past, I don't think this was a hard decision for them to make. I don't think they're losing sleep over it. And that's not saying it's a right decision, but I don't think it was a hard decision for them to come to. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets in.
Anything else catch you over the weekend that caught you before we end up sending everybody home?
No, just
like go for it.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see if Joe Biden does drop out, because it's funny. The concern has never been that he can't read a teleprompter. Concern has never been that he can't read notes. For them to think that publishing a letter that he very obviously did not write himself is going to assuage the fears that he can't speak. Like, come on.
Yeah.
If you ask Joe Biden to just recite a Cliff Notes version of it, he wouldn't know what they were because he didn't read them. He didn't write them. And he wouldn't even be able to articulate it if he did know what the letter says. So I don't see that helping.
Last week, especially on the 4th, people were like, Joe Biden needs to drop out today. And I said to myself, there's no way they're going to have him drop out on July 4th, right? No. There's no way they're going to have him do it near the national holiday, because you never want the party to lose that kind of face and have a memorable date like that stick around. Yeah. You know what I mean? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen far away from Independence Day, far away from any other date that people will even remember. He's only got about 30 days before he has to decide, right? Fully, I think it's just 30 days.
We're already at the point where, unless he dies, he's stuck on a couple state ballots.
I'm telling you, man, they have to keep him on there. They have no choice but to keep him on at this point.
Yeah.
So if the only way he gets out of the race is not by his choice, and that it's nature there. So
we'll see. I think this idea that it's over, let's all rally together, it is very much not over. Yeah. People are not comfortable with voting for a vegetable.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Well, that's it. That's all I got. That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, subscribe. Links down below if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. If you're watching on Twitter, welcome. We go live on Twitter, YouTube, Rumble. So like and follow whatever page you're watching it on. We also have the audio podcast. We try and make this as audio friendly as possible so you can listen during your commutes, when you're driving around, make it easy to do. All those places, everywhere there's audio podcasts, you can find ours as well. That's it for this edition of the podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, everyone, the fight to take back the country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together. See you next time.
See ya.